In your Kickstarter video for Las Vegas Story, I think you said that this film would either make or break your career.
Yeah, I think at that point, I really did think that this was it. This was the movie I had to make, and yeah, it didn't turn out that well. I didn't really get a great distribution deal out of it. I mean, some distributors were kind of shady. It was hard for me to really find the right company, and yeah, it ultimately, and it was kind of like stupid to kind of set it in that way, like, oh, this is a make it or break it kind of film. But that kind of tells you my mentality at that time. It was like make it or break it. Because ultimately, if you're a filmmaker or a storyteller, you can't really say, oh, I'm gonna make this or write this book or tell this story, and if I don't make $1 million off of it, then I'm gonna stop doing it, right? So yeah, I learned a lot of lessons from that movie. A very humbling experience, I would say, and made me reflect more on the business side of filmmaking and to understand it more. And I think I grew out of that much stronger.
So at that time, was it 2014 or
Yeah,
ish?
2014.
Okay. You said if this doesn't put me on the map, quote unquote, whatever that is, then I'm done. Was that your mindset, or no? You were just like, I really need to prove myself with this one.
Yeah, it was kind of like if this movie is not successful, then I wouldn't be able to make another movie, like in terms of financing, getting investors. But it wasn't the case because, investors are always out there. You just have to kind of find the right investors and, meet the right people. And really, for yourself, you have to be somebody who has the right script, the right project, the right people involved to bring that next project to fruition. So yeah, I mean, it would have been great if that movie, went to Sundance and did all that. But I think that's the biggest lesson for me, personally. It was like, hey, you can have all these dreams and you want to do this and that, but you can't just, you got to set your, you got to have realistic kind of awareness of where you're actually at and where your movie is actually going. And I see this with a lot of filmmakers. They make a movie and they're like, oh, it's going to go to Sundance. Yeah, I got this. It's like, well, what if it doesn't get into Sundance? Do you have a backup plan? What is your strategy? I went to Las Vegas Story without a distribution plan. I didn't know anything about distribution. I just thought, oh, I know everything. We're going to get Eric Roberts in there and boom, I'm going to be a big filmmaker now. And that was very egotistical of me to think that way. And I should have done my own homework and research before doing that.
Well, I mean, in fairness to you, though, you almost have to have that bravado to do something, especially if you're going to go to Las Vegas and the nature of the story and getting Eric Roberts. You really almost have to have that. So I wouldn't fault yourself too much because if you kind of have to be beating your own chest. You're the ringleader. But I get it. It sounds like in some ways that was the real film school.
Yeah, I learned a lot of lessons from that, and not just with filmmaking. Personally, I learned a lot about myself. And people say you learn the most when you fail at something, and if you're not failing, then you're not going to succeed. Because nobody, if you look at all the great, entrepreneurs or whoever, nobody got to where they are without first failing. Because you have to know what that feels like to fail for you to know what it's going to work in the end.
Looking back on it, though, would you have done anything slightly different with Las Vegas Story, or no, it went the way it was supposed to go?
I mean, I would have done it in the way that I originally wanted to shoot the movie, which was originally I wanted to make that movie on a shoestring budget, very cinema verite, just run and gun kind of thing. I probably would have done that, and because that's what I originally wanted to do. But I think once it became a bigger thing with like Eric Roberts attached, I felt like I had to make it more of a traditional movie. And I think that's where things kind of got changed a little bit. But you know, hindsight is always 2020.
Did you watch Leaving Las Vegas and some of these other
Yeah.
similar? I mean, it doesn't sound like it's totally the same by any means, but
Yeah.
sort of that Vegas tale. You've watched all those, and so you raised money for the budget, Kickstarter, and that was the entire.
No. Kickstarter only was like a partial part of it. I had a couple of investors that put in some money, like angel investors, and then I put some of my own money into it. So yeah, it was definitely a combined effort of fundraising.
But if it had been more cinema verite, you could have eliminated maybe half the budget, you think?
Yeah, and that was another lesson I learned from that, which is like the genre, right? Like I went from one genre originally, which was going to be art house, like, and then suddenly I want to change that story into, like a Leaving Las Vegas kind of movie. It's like I didn't quite make that transition in the right way because I took the same script and tried to make it into another genre, essentially, without understanding like what that even means.
Sure. I mean, I don't know what you would classify. It's not art house, Leaving Las Vegas, but in a lot of ways, the ending is more art house. It's not necessarily a Hollywood ending where everybody's smiling and going off to Disneyland afterwards. So
Yeah.
it's
But my movie was supposed to be kind of what they call a hybrid film, which is like almost documentary like, because you're using the real people, like the family, that's her family, like the kids and everything. So it's like you're making a fictional movie, but with like the real people playing kind of their own roles in their own house, like, using real locations and everything.